there. Okay, so video's on. So, first topic is a lot of people disagreed with the champions I said of no counterplay. If you guys disagree with that, and so this is over here. I can't. Okay, my thumb doesn't work that right. Ethug, he's a challenger, jungler, and NA. That's Wickd. You guys should know Wickd. That's Ireliacarriesu. You guys should probably know Ireliacarriesu. So these two are here, and if any of you guys, I guess, disagree with my list, you can do it now.
All right, can I bring it up first?
Yeah, you can go.
Okay, I disagree with Akali because I feel like she's still sort of like feasting of famine, and I never have issues with her when I play Aurelia because although she shits on you from like level 1 to 4, all you have to really do is if you can't bait out the Shroud just by like walking up and auto attacking her, all you gotta do is just turn W on, like stun her, turn W on, auto her, and then she pops a Shroud, and every time she autos you, you just have to auto her back. And you will definitely like crush her in a trade like that. And then when the Shroud ends, you just Q her and kill her. I like never had issues with her, and I think that you could say the same thing with Gnar, where you like just take Q at level 1, just basically bully him out of lane, and then you can just keep the lead going on forever. Like the biggest problem champions I think would just be like those pure tank champions and maybe Pantheon. I would say the same thing with Riven. Like I don't know how she would be after she gets buffed. I heard that she might be getting buffed, but I just feel like if you play it right and get tab by, she just feels completely useless.
For Riven, they're buffing her Q 5 damage per hit on the PBE.
Like per auto hit? Okay.
No, per Q.
I think the bigger problem is not necessarily that there's no counterplay to them or counter champions. The problem is you have to pick specific champions against the champion you're against. You can't just pick whatever, because most of the time you'll be countered. For example, if you pick Irelia, you'll be countered by 80% of the champions top. If you pick Jace, you'll most likely be countered by Maokai or something like that. Like a lot of these champions you can play against, but you need to be the second pick. And there's very few champions right now in top lane that you can pick first without getting fucked, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say the only thing I can say about Riven is I'm pretty okay with Riven where she is right now. The thing I'm not okay with is buffing her. I mean, really, that's what I want to say. I think she's in a fine spot. I think when Riven's overbearing, especially because when you compare Riven's, like every champion's got an all-in cooldown. Like Jax is Counter-Strike, Riven is Heaton style, Warwick has, I don't know what you call it, his E, Primal Roar, I think, maybe something like that. All those cooldowns are longer than Riven's Q. So if Riven can trade even with you and have lower cooldowns, and of course her Q can be buffered, whereas things like Counter-Strike doesn't go on cooldown until you actually activate it. So if Riven can good trade even with you, it allows her to buffer a trade and then go for a second trade and you die. You know?
Yeah, I think that's overbearing, but like I can only like attest to like a few Riven players that are like amazing enough to cancel my autos a couple of times. Like I know you guys are like, oh yeah, she just cancels your autos, but for her to time it properly, it definitely takes a lot of skill on the player's part. And I feel like when that happens and I die, okay, you outplayed me, sure, but
I feel like the problem with Riven is not necessarily how strong she is, but it's a trading pattern. Basically, with Riven, you're always the one deciding if you want to trade, when you want to trade, if it's a good trade. And to beat Riven, you mostly have to depend on her making a mistake. You're not the one going in and deciding her to make that mistake and outplaying her. She's the one making a mistake, and you're punishing her for that.
And if she plays it perfectly, she's gonna win.
I mean, that's what I've always said when I play Jax. People say you can Counter-Strike and kill her. I say, no. What you do is you're using your Counter-Strikes in a way that you're kind of trying to bait her into continuing an otherwise bad trade, you know? Because Riven takes a bad trade into Counter-Strike, yeah, you can kill her. If she doesn't, if she just goes with short trades and she keeps poking you, you'll never get a good chance to kill her. Like, it's the onus is completely on her to make the mistake. Yeah, when she makes a mistake, you can capitalize on it. But especially the higher and higher rank you go, the less mistakes that are going to happen, and the more you're just going to kind of lose by default.
But if you look at almost all the champions you have chosen right now, all of them either have a shield, amazing healing, or they're ranged with a potential one-shot. For example, Heimerdinger and Jace, those can both one-shot a person. I play a lot of Heimerdinger myself right now. I'm using him all the time. Pantheon, tons of poking. Maokai, Ornn, super healing, tank, a lot of damage as well. They'll have everything, all these champions, kind of. And I think that's a problem, because you need specific champions to play against that.
It's something that actually really frustrated me when they did the Heimer mini rework, He's at the two Heimer, Heisendong, and whoever the other guy was on NA, so you wouldn't know him, Wicked. The two, high-low Heimer players are both like, oh, they just buffed the shit out of him against Melee. And I was just like, did nobody talk to these Heimer players? It's really frustrating because A, they've never gone back and checked on it and been like, how's Heimer doing? Is he killing Melee? But two, they never talk to these players and be like, hey, what if he could, what if you could now one-shot Melee champions with your combo? It's like, yeah, maybe that would make him a little bit stronger. Ugh.
Heimerdinger is completely broken. Like I play him all the time right now on stream. I don't know, you guys maybe haven't watched. I don't know.
I've heard about it a lot. A lot of people
you just
talk
watch
about it.
every single jungle that comes. They just come up. You like E, bam, dead. It's really dumb.
Yeah. To add on to that, it's like from a jungler's perspective, like the only time you can really get a window to kill Heimerdinger is pre-6, and if their jungler has a brain, you just kind of like hunker down top lane or wherever the Heimerdinger is, and just kind of wait, get vision for the Heimerdinger, and if you can survive past 6, I mean. It's just ridiculously hard.
Yeah.
I think all they have to do is just make the turret cooldown longer, make them slightly tankier, and then actually making it important to kill the turrets right now. Because I feel like whenever I play Heimerdinger and somebody kills my turrets, I'm like, yeah, you just took 50 damage killing that one. I'll just put a new one.
Yeah, well,
there's no cooldown on it.
What upsets me about that is the turret is only 20 mana, and they're always, he's always got them in stock. You can't kill him as fast as, he recycles them. So if you kill a turret, you take damage, he plops it down for 20 mana, and it's kind of like, what did I accomplish other than reducing my health bar?
Yeah, it certainly feels that way, especially like early on in the lane. If you walk up and try to kill one of his turrets, you lose like half your HP. And that's not even counting if he like tries to auto attack you or use any abilities on you. So it's impossible to like get any lane control. He constantly shoves you in and just bullies you. And also like in the past seasons, getting first tower was like whatever, it was worth the same amount of gold as getting any turret, but now there's a lot more importance to getting the first tower, and he's probably going to get it all the time because he is constantly pushing in, and he's really hard to gank, so it's like a free 650 gold to him, and he also scales really well, so it's like, what the fuck.
Also, his roaming is insane. Whenever he roams, his ultimate E is absolutely broken.
Yeah. So, segueing that, Wicked mentioned, okay, so top lane is super counter pick oriented right now, and yeah, I mean, I get frustrated with that when people say, well, why don't you counter pick Pantheon? It's like, very few people are just first picking Pantheon. They wait till you pick something, they counter pick it, and then they win. And there are very few champions right now that can't be counter picked. And that's really what every bruiser in the game can be counter picked just purely by being a bruiser. There's nothing you can do about that.
I have one question. Can you mention a single non-tank that you can first pick that cannot be counter picked?
Teemo.
I mean, I would argue, though, that Teemo gets countered by Ornn, because Ornn can survive against him. And, I mean, if you survive against Teemo as a champion that doesn't need to auto-attack, that does a pretty good job.
Also, Sign is pretty good against Teemo.
I mean, though, I guess that's more the issue of Ornn just being broken, more so than Ornn being a counter pick, yeah. I mean, I guess that's another thing that frustrates me, is people constantly mention Ornn as if Ornn isn't going to be nerfed next patch. Like everyone knows Ornn is going to get nerfed. It's not going to be a shock when that comes out on the PBE.
Yeah, I think another problem with Teemo is that a lot of them go that 80 build, and it still feels like they get all that utility from the shrooms. Like it still slows you a shit ton, right? And that's going to be a huge problem for teams when there's going to be a lot of team fights happening. Like I'm 80 Teemo, their team will think, oh, we can just ignore his shrooms, they don't do any damage, but the slow on them is ridiculous. It's like, I don't know what it is, but it just feels like it slows me forever.
Yeah, I mean, that's what, if you ever try, I mean, people say 80 Teemo falls off, but if you're playing an auto attacker, does he really? Like, a champion can blind me for 2.5 seconds every 8 seconds with no cooldown reduction, while chasing me around and perma-slowing me, and having enough damage to remain relevant. It's like, so I can't stick on a target, I can't hit a target, I can't kill him, he's gonna fucking run a shroom. It's like, people say he falls off, does he really, though?
I think the problem with Teemo is just his Q. Like, basically, Q is designed to counter a specific kind of champions, auto attackers, right? And I don't see a point in having a champion that's just made to counter pick and destroy other champions' viability top lane.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. They could change his Q into practically, like, I mean, they could change his Q into a straight damage reduction, and it would just be so much more healthy for everyone involved. Like, even if it was up to like a 40% damage reduction. I mean, first off, that'd make Teemo more viable into more picks, and second off, it would mean if I'm playing a bruiser and I got this dude, you know, again, as I mentioned, if he's running around with the frozen mallet chain slowing me, and I use my one gap closer to get on a target and immediately get blinded, you know, at the very least, if it was damage reduction, I could do, you know, 60% of my remaining damage, even if it was, even if it was a 40% damage reduction.
Yeah, it just becomes a huge problem when he gets like even Jarm's Fist. He just like stands in your melee range and still out damages you because his E is like a free BF sword when he maxes it, and it's also over time and it applies Ares, so it's even more damage on top of that. So it's like, he doesn't even need to kite me to beat me. Just because the blind lasts so long, he can just sit there and auto me.
People didn't believe me. I was playing Aatrox, and people were like, why don't you just get on Teemo? You can summon with your E and keep in range with your ult. It's like, he's gonna stand there and beat me. Like, I don't...
Yeah, playing melee against range is basically just sit, farm, take as little damage as possible, and pray to God that your jungle is coming soon.
Yeah, so the next point I got up here is 3 points, really. There's too much jungle pressure top. Turrets suck and can't stop the jungler. And too much gameplay right now is based on your jungler not being bad.
I think range is overpowered.
Range is overpowered, yeah.
Or tanks.
I mean, generally speaking, I think the problem right now is when a ranged champion engages in a fight, they're still safe from the jungler. When a melee champion engages in a fight, or even when a tank engages in a fight, they're still relatively safe from the jungler. It's only, bruisers like Jax, Irelia, that kind of stuff, who you engage in a fight, and you don't have the health, you don't have the resistances, the jungler comes, they just one-shot you, If I leap strike on top of a Teemo, and the jungler is even in the vicinity of the map, he can very likely make it there and kill me.
But that's still about making ranged overpowered, and then you have to make tanks overpowered to survive against ranged, and then they just forgot about making bruisers overpowered, right? So you have two overpowered roles, where bruisers you kind of forgotten. And I think even the problem was the last patch. I actually think this patch of all is better than last season, but I still think it's in a bad spot.
Yeah, and they buff stuff like Doran's Shield, and they're like, oh yeah, now if you're playing like a bruiser, you can start Doran's Shield and survive, I don't know, whatever. But the thing is, if you buff Doran's Shield, then tanks are going to start going Doran's Shield against bruisers, and then they just shit all over bruisers because they take like no damage and regen everything up. Even though it's an item designed to like help melees against ranged champions, it just gets abused by tanks. So it's like really hard for them to find a balance with an item that will benefit bruisers but not benefit tanks much more.
Imagine they just made it a melee item that only worked against ranged attacks. Think about that.
I actually had that thought that they should just make Doran's Shield only, like the healing ticker thing, the 20 health. I was actually spitballing, like, I think 2 months ago, that they should make it only last 5 seconds if it's from a melee champion damaging you. So you get 10 health if you're hit by a melee, 20 if you're hit by a ranged, over 5 or 10 seconds, mind you.
I'd be fine with that. No, but also, like, if you look in the past, I think Blade of the Ruined King was made in the past for bruisers, no?
Yeah,
I think that's the main reason it was made, and then
the original, if you guys ever remember, it was what, in season 3 they released it, yeah. The original iteration had no attack speed because they did not intend it to be used on AD carries. They only wanted it to be used on bruisers who had innate attack speed. It was only later it was even in its current iteration, and I don't know. It slowly, every time they touch that item, they take away what makes it desirable for bruisers and make it more desirable for AD carries.
I think they need to make more bruiser items, bruiser-specific items. Like, we have Titanic Hydra, which is one, but apart from that, we don't really have any. I think that if they just made bruiser-specific items, it'd be much easier to balance. And also starting items, so you actually have a chance against ranged champions, because that's the biggest problem for bruisers. They can't lane.
Yeah, it's one thing that kind of frustrated me. You guys remember when Doran's Shield was 5 health on hit, 3 for range. It was just like, if Kenny goes Doran's Blade and I go Doran's Blade, we can still all-in each other. You can't really all-in him if you go Doran's Shield. But at the very least, when we're trying to hit minion waves to heal, I heal 2 more each hit, And when they removed discrepancies like that, it just kind of made... Like, I feel like that was when I remember at the time they said, oh, we want Doran's Blade to not have melee because we'll make melee champions good to compensate for it. And it's, no, you didn't.
There's also Rageblade, like with Wickd mentioning a lot more bruiser-oriented items. Like when they made Rageblade the way it was in like season 6 or early season 6, like it was overtuned in the beginning, but then they increased the price, and I felt like it was decent after that.
Yeah.
Like Jackson and Irelia didn't have like insane win rates or anything, and then they like whipped around and said, okay, we're just gonna change the item completely, and they just made it like cater to attack speed 80 carries like Kog'Maw and Vayne, and now you can't even build that item on Jax or
You know,
Irelia
they had
anymore.
originally intended this iteration to be used on bruisers. I was actually talking to some dude, he doesn't work there anymore, but he was working on the project. If you remember when they added the AP ratios to Shyvana and Nocturne, they were actually tuning Rageblade to be used on bruisers. It was then used on Kog'Maw, and the general mentality was, hey, it's useful on somebody, so we're going to give it up now. Like, it's useful on Kog'Maw, so that's good enough for us. It doesn't have to be good on bruisers anymore.
Yeah, I really miss the old Rageblade. It felt like for the first time in ages, I felt like I didn't need to build Trinity Force to be doing a lot of damage.
Yeah, that was something that killed me, was at that time you could go Rageblade, Gunblade on Jax, and, I mean, the way it stacked up and everything, you really felt like Jax was, you know, a dude who started off slow, built up, and then just beat the shit out of everyone around him. And then they're like, no, you're going to go Trinity and hit people with Trinity proc Ws again.
Like one of the craziest thing, I don't know if you guys remember this, but in the past I used to run AP Irelia because there's decent AP scaling on it as well. And then suddenly they're like, nah, if you don't want AP Irelia, we just remove it. And I was like, why do you remove an aspect that was never overpowered, it was never super strong or anything, but it's like a niche that works sometimes, you know? Why remove something cool like that that can actually work sometimes here and there?
It's something that's always bothered me, is they left Jax's AP ratios. You know, he's still got his AP ratios. Every so often, you know, if you want to play AP Jax, you can. Like, it's not the best, but it's still playable. But on other bruisers, champions like, I mean, Olaf doesn't even have AP ratios. Maybe he shouldn't be AP, but, you know, maybe if you wanted to play an axe-oriented Olaf that had an AP ratio, would that really ruin the game? I don't know. Like, maybe if you're in a tough matchup where all you're going to be able to do is chuck axes or I don't know. Like, I don't know. It just seems like such a... Because AP items are infinitely more interesting than AD items right now. I mean,
I agree.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I just started
you had-
spamming then.
You have things like Sonya's and so on, which is super cool and super overpowered in my opinion. Like in the past, it didn't even exist, and it was still a balanced game. And then suddenly Sonya's comes around and is like, well, if you go in on somebody now as a bruiser, you're kind of fucked.
Well, they kind of did make it a little bit more accessible to 80 champs because you can get that stopwatch thing. I like that thing. It's pretty clutch at times, but yeah, I agree.
Okay, so the next point, and this is really a seg off this one. I ran. You guys can disagree. I think these are the numbers. I remember them off the top of my head. They're right enough, but Titanic, Trinity, and Sturg's Gauge currently is a 10,400 gold combo. If you build 2 attack speed items and Infinity Edge on an 80 carry, that's an 8,600 gold combo. To get to a 3-item combo on a bruiser right now is 1,800 more gold than an 80 carry. Like a class that is frequently pushed out of lane, can't CS properly, against a class that is fed every wave, our items are more expensive, and our late game is worse. It doesn't... Like, our early game is worse, our items are more expensive, our late games are worse, and Riot just doesn't seem to understand, like, why aren't people playing bruisers? It's really fucking hard right now. You've got this golden opportunity right at 3 items, you're power spiking. Unless you were pushed out early game, then you're not. Unless other people got the late game, then you're not. But if you, it's so niche right now to try to make a bruiser work, I guess is my point.
I think the main thing is, like, if you look at mid lane have been strong early, mid, late game throughout all times, right? 80 carries used to be weak early, kind of weak east mid, and then like god mode late game, right? But they changed 80 carries to be the same as mid lane, good early, good mid, good late game, but they never changed bruisers, right? So like bruisers just fell slightly behind. I feel like even with a lot of bruisers right now, if you try to 1v1 an 80 carry, you will often lose to a lot of 80 carries. Which is a problem because what is your point in the game? Like, what is your goal actually? Unless you get super fed as a bruiser, what's your goal?
I mean,
I have a point with all of this. I think that it's balanced around the support not having a lot of gold, but I feel like supports are getting a shit ton of gold and a lot of items that can stop you from diving in. And for example, I can kill an 80 carry that has like 2 items, like 8,000 gold if I just have Trinity and Tabite. Like I can murder a Varus with like 2 items. If I only have 1 item as Aurelia, like no problem. Okay, I can destroy him in a 1v1. It's just very little like he can do. But the problem is like in team fights, or if he has a support with him, if he has a Janna with like, I don't know, let's say Ardent Sensor, like I'm not even gonna do any damage to him. Like that's when the problem comes. It's not in a 1v1 scenario. It's the problem when supports get included. I know it's like a 1v2 scenario, but in 5v5, I feel like I'm completely useless just because those supports have that much gold funneled into them and they buy all these items that cock block me all the time.
Well, tell me if you've heard this before. You dive an AD carry, and they end up at more health than you began with.
Yeah, pretty much.
But also, that's only targeted some AD carries, no? Like, if you play against Tristana, you will never kill him pretty much. If you play
Yeah.
against a Vayne, you'll most likely die in a lot of situations as well, no?
Well, I mean, it really depends. Like, if I jump on Vayne in a 1v1, I can still melt her away with like my base damage. If I only have Trinity and Tab and she has like 2 items, I can definitely kill her. But a problem, like obviously when she gets like 5 items, she will definitely like murder me, with a
So
Quicksilver
don't you think
splash.
she can kite you, though? Like, she stuns you into a wall and she just cuts you around. How are you gonna
Yeah,
catch
but
her afterwards?
that's assuming that she gets to stun you into a wall. I mean, you can always consider that sort of play from her and avoid the walls, right?
Well,
Then you
I
can
guess
scan her. But the
But
problem,
how are you gonna catch her? Like, let's say you play Irelia, whatever. Like, you Q her.
yeah.
She pushes you back or stuns you into a wall. How are you gonna continue the fight?
Well, I wouldn't start it out that way. I would QT a minion right beside her. Like I have to wait for
Oh.
the right opportunity. I Q a minion
Yes,
right beside her, and then I open up with a trade. During the stun, she's probably gonna lose like 50% of her HP at least, and then she RQs, right? And then I can Q her and probably finish her off. But if she has a support with her, then I'm not even gonna touch her.
But that basically means you only have the chance if she's completely alone. She massively fucked up by standing next to a minion wave, and she doesn't get to stun you into a wall.
Well, technically, yeah. If you play it out right, I mean, all of them are gonna have to farm eventually, and you can get a good setup on them. They're not always gonna be like, oh, I better never go near my minion wave because Aurelia might jump on me at this time. They're not gonna think about that. It's just a problem that like I don't have a problem with the 1v1 thing because my items cost more gold because I can beat them with less items. You know, like you can beat most AD carries with less items
Well, I
if
mean,
you're playing
I
Aurelia
get-
or Jax.
I guess the point Wicked is trying to make is that even in your example, there's so many more situations where Vayne beats Irelia than Irelia beats Vayne, yet you're a diving champion that's trying, like, your only thing you can do on a team is try to kill people, and this class you're trying to kill can outplay you in, what, 7 out of 8 times? Something like that?
I think a Vayne would win most of the times, and even if you win, I think she would survive in 9 out of 10 times because you can just jump away, flash. I don't think you can catch her.
And then not to focus on Vayne here, but how many times you played a Kog'Maw or a Varus with a Rage Blade, and you dive on them, and it's just like auto, and you're dead. I mean, I'm probably not alone here, and that happens very frequently.
To me, two items that really annoys bruisers is QSS or cleanse, like QSS or cleanse, and then Sonya's. Those 2 items completely destroys bruisers combos because every time you go in, you get absolutely destroyed by those items.
Yeah, and it's something that frustrates a lot of people. People will say, "Why don't you group?" If you play it through in your head, you can't kill the AD carry. The AD carry, generally has barrier. The support next to them. So you think, okay, can I kill the mage? You dive the mage, you leap strike to the mage, you whatever, I think Irelia's is called Blade Surge. You use Where-Recall, something. You use something and you get on the mage, they Zanyas, the AD carry turns and guns you down. Yeah, do you sit there and you wait next to them? Do you run away? It's very difficult to do that.
But also, even if you just look at the bruisers right now, they're mostly played as tanks, right? Like Jax, you're super tanky. You buy tank items in the end, anyways. You have your ultimate to become tanky, and then you're more like a tank in team fights instead of a bruiser, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's something. It's something that kind of. Somebody's echoing, by the way. Oh, there we go. It's something that's kind of fucked with. I don't know. They put out the Trinity, Styx, Titanic, right? And those are supposed to be your big 3 items, and they make you a little bit tanky, but from there, the ideal build is to continue to use Styx, 75% health scaling, and to just go Adaptive Helm and Omen, because, great, you get Omen, that reduces the crit damage. Omen is fantastic, probably the most effective anti-AD carry item I can imagine, and then Adaptive Helm just kind of, a lot of mages kind of get shut down by it. So you add those 2 items onto your list instead of, for example, going with more damage, going with a Rage Blade or a Guardian Angel or a Phantom Dancer. And that's really kind of the ideal way to play it right now. But the problem is that your damage will fall off to the point where you can't really punch through the AD carry. And this goes back into, 6-item bruisers suck. Because the most ideal way to play is a way that doesn't really have a role late game. Like
Imagine if they made items that could counter other items for bruisers and something like that. Like imagine if they made an item that could stop QSSs from working if you were within like 200 range or something, like melee range, right? Maybe 300 range. And the same for Sonya's, that could actually work really well for them. And then there could also be squishy in team fights without having to be this massive tank, because you can actually jump in, catch people, and hopefully kill them before they get out.
Yeah, a point to bring to that is they still haven't made any way of countering knockups, and yet they keep on adding them into the game. So it feels like there's no point in getting mercs almost. I mean, they could add in, like, I don't know, lead boots or something so that you don't fly up as much if a Janna tornado hits you. Like, that would probably help a little bit. They don't need to, like, add in too much.
It's
They could
something
just
that's
add a new pair of boots, and it would probably help a lot against certain forms of CC, because mercs don't really work against every form of CC.
it's
I
something
think
that's.
Oh, sorry.
No, you can go.
I think to add to that though is like the problem is Riot like balances their game around like the lower elo community, or at least this is what I've been noticing. So you get problems, and I think the best example is a champion that was just released, Zoe or whatever. Like that champion is retardedly broken, right? But like the reason why that champion's in the game is because Riot wants to like appeal more to the lower elo community, right? Like the champion takes pretty much no skill, but like it's rewarded with all this stuff. It's the same with like support getting too much gold, ADC being good at all points in the game, having no real weakness, and bruisers not being that good because like bruisers are pretty good in like lower ranks. Like, you know what I mean?
And to kind of go on with that, like, I mean, I remember back in I think it was season 2, it was Dyrus. But, first item's a Frozen Mallet on Irelia and guns down the Ashe. And I feel like that's how Riot still thinks bruisers are. That they're literally just running at the AD carry and auto-attacking them until they're dead. Like that's the image I get when Riot thinks of how bruisers are played. And how they see bruisers and how how everyone tries to actually use them and has to use them just doesn't seem to sync up anymore. Like, they put out Sterix Gauge and they give the shield tenacity, which was great, but it's like, okay, I mean, that's neat and all, but how many supports now have gotten knockups under the guise that, bruisers are these big, scary champions that we have to fight? We need to give supports knockups to ensure bruisers don't dominate anymore.
But like even with the tenacity thing, I feel like you get stunned, you have so much tenacity, but at that point the people are already far away from you, so you can't catch them until your next gap closes up. So the tenacity doesn't even do that much because you have to wait for your gap closer regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I was the one who suggested the tenacity on Sterix Gauge. I mean, not to a Rioter, but I was talking about it a lot on my stream. And, once I saw it in effect, I was like, that actually doesn't do really much now that I'm using it.
Yeah, I think the bigger thing is having items that counters other items like Sunnis and Curse. That'll just fix it, honestly, in my opinion, because that way they can't just get away. You catch somebody really hard, they're supposed to die at that point, I think. And sure, it can be an expensive item or something, and a bruiser only item or whatever, but I think that will help it out a lot.
And it's something I'm really frustrated by is all these bruiser items are massively expensive, and they don't really seem to, like, what do they do? What does Titanic Hydra do? It gives you wave clear, and you hit people harder. What does Sterix Gauge do? It kind of gives you a shield, and you hit people harder. And then you compare that to AD carry items. What does Static Shiv do? It gives you this... what does Rapid Fire Cannon do? It gives you a longer range auto attack. What does Sonya's Hourglass do? It gives you a temporary immunity. And it seems like bruisers don't really change with the items they get, whereas the playstyle for an AD carry or a mage changes with what items they get. Even tanks, you look at Righteous Glory, you look at, what is that one, Gargoyle Stoneplate, and how they play the game will differ once they get these items. Bruisers just hit harder and are tankier.
Yeah, I totally agree on Righteous Glory. I think it's like it's a super cheap item. It makes you feel super impactful on a tank. Like you press it, you like initiate for your team, and you slow the shit out of the enemy team, and bam, you have like a good setup. Like what do I do when I get Trinity? It like costs like 1,000 more gold, and I get it, and it's like, oh, you can maybe one shot one person, and maybe win the game for your team. But that's not like most of the time. I can't really like just walk up and kill an 80 carry or a mage because they have all this insane amount of peel, and then I'm just easily locked down and I die.
You
Well,
know,
let's just make a comparison. If you take any bruiser against Maokai, at what point in the game does a single one of the bruisers win?
I don't think you'll ever actually. You'll never kill the Maokai. Is the thing.
No, I don't mean that. I mean, at what point in the game is he stronger and have more impact on the game than a Maokai?
Oh well, you'll never. I mean, he'll beat you in the laning phase, then he'll force a team fight where he wins the team fight.
And he will win the split push. He will win the split push, or be completely fine in the split push as well.
He already scaled super well, and then he gets Righteous Glory, and is like even more impactful in team fights. Like he has this giant AOE ult that like CCs people, and his Q basically hits everything around him. Like he throws it out in front, and then it hits people in the back. Like how the fuck does that even make any sense? And then like oh shit, he Q'd and I was behind him and he hit me. Oh man, I got outplayed here, I guess.
It's something that's always kind of pissed me off though. Is a Maokai player can miss his Q and knock you out of the trade still. You can like walk behind him and be like, "Oh, I've outsmarted you," and then it still knocks you away.
Yeah, his Q is stupid. I think they should definitely change how the interaction works, because I think it just hits everything around him. It's not like a skill shot that hits this stuff that he hits in front of him. No.
I mean, that's something I kind of want to get into too. Is tanks are? I mean, I'm not being biased here. Tanks are blatantly the lowest skill cap class in the game, like by far. And yet they're pushed so hard by Riot. I mean, I remember in Season 4 they said, oh, Shyvana versus Mundo is an auto-attack fight. We don't like those. I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. You play around the cooldowns. Now the tank fights are like, all right, which is my spammable key and which is the one that clears the wave? Oh, they're the same one? Let me just hit that one until the wave is dead.
Honestly, Shyvana versus Mundo, those kind of masters were so much more skilled because it was like all in. You had to fight all the time. You had to melee attack. You had to bait out attacks. You had to fake attacks and so on. Where right now you play Maokai on and you just click W or Q depending on which one you pick. Right?
Yeah. I mean, people always make fun of me. And I did. Back in the day, I would complain about Shyvana and Irelia, but compared to today, it's like a goddamn paradise. I mean, you play against Irelia or Shyvana top, and you're like, wow, I can do stuff. I can play the game, Okay, don't go near the low health minion. When I'm near Maokai, it's like, okay, so don't be in the general lane area. Because he'll beat you there.
Wait, Ireliacarriesu, have you played Irelia against Shen?
Yeah, of course.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, so much fun.
I feel like that is the most disgusting matchup in the whole game right now. He takes your health he takes 60% of your health every time he E's, and you can't damage him.
Yeah, I think this whole issue just goes down to tanks are better at everything that bruisers do. They do more damage, they're more tanky, and they have a lot more impact. They have better items, and their items are a lot cheaper. Like I don't even have problems with 80 carries and shit, but when you like compare my items to like pure tank items and how much damage they do, like why am I even playing this champ? I could play Shen and do the same damage that I do with my W when I turn it on Irelia all the time, just because I press like one ability on him, and he has like innate survivability, and he can influence the map with his global ultimate. Like I can't do any of that, but he still shits on me in a 1v1. He presses one ability and it counters like 75% of my kit instantly.
He presses one ability, he gets a shield, a slow, a damage boost, and an attack speed boost.
Yeah. 10% is health, right?
Yeah.
I don't
believe
remember.
he gets that in his queue.
I mean, but tell me I'm not crazy here, by the way. Every time I say Cho'Gath outtrades Bruiser's early game, people are like, no, he doesn't. I'm like, but he presses E, he is grasping and dying, he right-clicks you. I mean...
You can out-trade him if his E is off cooldown, but that's basically because he messed up.
Yeah, right?
We can out-trade him.
And here's Cho'Gath, a late-game tank. Everybody says, oh, but he gets kited late game. Well, yeah, he gets kited because if he touches the 80 carry, they're dead from full health. But,
I just feel like they need to figure out what they want Bruisers to be. Like, I would imagine Bruisers to be either super good late game or super strong early mid game, right? Like either one of the other one. If they want to go for the late game thing, add crit chance, add things like that, make Bruisers really strong in the late game so they can actually have a massive impact, or make them super strong in the laning phase and then make them fall off really hard later on, like making items like Trinity Force that is currently in the game right now. Because they will fall off.
one thing they could really do, and I've talked about this in the past, is basically make an item. Maybe make it Phantom Dancer. That basically, because they don't want to give bruisers crit, right? Because they say you don't auto attack enough to make a healthy gameplay to have crit, right? Maybe take an item like Phantom Dancer and put a special, tooltip on it. Your crit chance is now converted into bonus, percent bonus damage. So if you buy Phantom Dancer, you don't get 30% crit, you get 30% bonus damage on your auto attacks. And you follow me on this?
Yeah, but I mean, why doesn't Bruises auto enough?
Well, that's always been Riot's thing. You always ask them, why did Trinity lose crit? Why are crit items aimed solely at AD carries? They say, well, bruisers are, they auto attack you, 3 to 4 times? So it's not, in a 3 to 4 time, they say it's not healthy enough to have crit, because you could crit 3 times or 1 time or 0, and you don't auto attack enough to make it healthy. Not that I agree or disagree with it, but that's just always been their reasoning.
Yeah, and then there was also the time of, Atmos Impaler. Like, I think that probably was like a healthy enough time. Like, 80 carries got their late game, but at least if you were playing a bruiser, you also got a late game, because you would get this item and it would increase your damage because you got more HP. So, you would have a benefit over pure tanks in that sense, because you built this item, you have Trinity, you have a lot of crit because Trinity gave crit back then. You also have crit from Atmos, gives you armor and gives you increased AD based on your HP. So you scale really well, you crit people and blah, blah, blah. You have like an inherent advantage over tank champions, but they removed that obviously, and now it's like there's kind of like a gap left in. And the only times they're strong is like when the tank items are kind of shitty, and then you can get to like punch right through them. But now all the tank items are really strong, and you don't have any items that help you scale into the late game anymore. There was Blade of the Rune King, but it's just it's kind of expensive. I mean, I build it every game right now, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it does as much as much as a Titanic Hydra, for example.
And that's something, I mean, I always say this stuff on the stream, but my chat will fight me on this nonstop, but my argument truly boils down to, why should a tank be able to beat a bruiser 1v1? Like, after, like, even in the laning phase, why should tanks, who very frequently have ranged poke and are tanky and are hard to kill, why in a straight up auto fight should they be going even? Even into the late game, why should a tank be able to fight a bruiser? You're so much better at you're unbelievably better at team fighting. I mean, when a tank pops their Gargoyle Stone Plate and has either a Knight's Vow or a Locket, something like that, it's unbelievable how much better they are than bruisers. When you got the 7k health Cho'Gath running at you, shielding the AD carry, for a 4,000 health shield, it's just like, you shielded more than my entire kit does. That's an item. And I don't know, it just, when they start pushing items like Blade of the Rune King off bruisers, I'm just like, okay, so what? I go Trinity Titanic Sterix, and when I fight a Cho'Gath, I just hope his team isn't paying attention for the 3 minutes it's going to take me to drop his health bar? And even then, so he wave clears, I maybe drop his health bar. At this point, we're probably at a Nexus turret. He goes back to Fountain, heals, and then, okay, that was pointless.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Actually, I think they need to make more items, like either Blade or crit items and bruisers. It just makes more sense. I don't get the point where, as you said earlier, the Riot says that crit doesn't make sense on bruisers, because I feel like that's something that they should have, because the more crit they have, the stronger they're going to scale, right? Like, the ways you scale against tanks right now is via crit or via armor penetration per percentage, right? Like Last Whisper, for example. There's no other way to scale against a tank.
And going back to that, one thing I remember is the number one thing that changed when they nerfed and effectively removed Atmos Impaler is bruisers kind of went from the secondary carry to not. One of the scariest things, people always talk about, Season 2 AD carries were the most terrifying thing ever. I mean, were they? Or what was really more terrifying? Like the Olaf with the Warmogs and the Atmos and the full tank running at you, pressing W? Or, the AD carry. In very many situations, I'd say, no, actually, that Olaf fucking terrified me.
Well, honestly, in Season 2, AD carries were obviously the strongest by far late game. Like, they're way strong in mid lanes, they're way strong in everybody late game, right? But until 5 items, they were the weakest role, I think. Like, top was...
Very weak. They didn't let them... The support was there to guard them through the laning phase. It wasn't there for the support to support them. The support was a strong early game champion to keep the AD carry safe. and I feel like a lot of people have forgotten that. Like
But I think a big problem they also made was, I don't know if you guys remember this. In the past, you didn't have the problem in 1v2s because 1v2 is actually fine to lane. But then they decided to give AD carry and support more XP because they're like, oh, these guys are too low level, so they're going to get more XP.
I remember that
Which
change.
I'm like, why did they change that? Because now they had to nerf turrets, they had to nerf so many things just to have that one change in the game. I don't think it's bad for AD carries and supports to be lower levels than they're 2 men in one lane taking most resources, right?
Yeah, I don't mind their items costing less if they have that way to balance them around it. Like if I come from top lane, I'm level 11. Like their Ashe is level 9. I could probably crap on the Ashe even if she has like 2 items on me. But when I come down and she's like the same level as me, then we have a problem, I think.
But both of them are the same level as you.
Yeah, that too.
I mean, I would say that there's just, to kind of try to summarize everything, there's an issue with bruisers launching in the laning phase because they're very frequently counterpicked or shut down by a tank, and then you got difficulty getting through the laning phase. So then you try to launch out of the laning phase once you get your Trinity, at which point the tank is already at 1.5 items. The bot lane is equal level to you. Team fights are being forced. Objectives are being fought over. It's very difficult to find time to get into that split push with things like home guards around now. So even if you get in there and you get into your Titanic or your Styrex, it's just such like you're trying to grasp at this one moment for you to shine, and it's so difficult to reach it right now.
I don't even think split push is a viable strategy at all right now.
Yeah,
First of all, tank split push as fast as you, and if you split push, you can never dive anybody. You can never. You just stand there and farm minions basically.
Exactly. I mean, that's I don't know. I play a lot of Jax, obviously, and people say, why don't you split push against that Cho'Gath? I say, it will literally take me 1.5 minutes to kill this dude. Because every time I start hitting him, he's going to run behind the turret, and by the time anything happens, the jungler is just going to, in 1.5 minutes, the jungler's going to walk over and be like, oh, hey, what are you doing to my dude? I'm just going to, So, of course, the Cho'Gath's got the 50% perma-slow and the Q, and the jungler will have CC, and it's far more likely if I try to split push at Jax that I'm gonna die before the Cho'Gath dies, even if he tries to come out and fight me. Because even if I'm straight 1v1ing him and we're just sitting there auto attacking each other, it's gonna take so much time, and I'm on their side of the map, on their side, under their turret, that their team's gonna get there first.
Yeah, I think they also nerfed like champions like Jax in a way because they made a lot of the full resistance items. They don't really look very appealing right now anymore because all these HP items are so good right now. Like HP is king of all stats right now, I think, if you're trying to get tanky in any sense. So like this Cho'Gath might have only like, I don't know, 190 armor, but he has like 6,000 HP. Like I'm not gonna burn through that. And then he has the gargoyles active, like he can pop that and he makes up for all the resistances he lacks. So it'll take like forever to punch right through him, right? Because he has all this HP, and you can't really deal with all this HP because if you go like Blade, let's say on Jax, if you go Blade, then you're super squishy in team fights, then you get absolutely destroyed. So I don't know. I feel like this all comes down to like not having an item that kind of matches this health stacking in a way. Like, sure, Blade is good. I don't disagree with that, but it just costs so much and it leaves me really weak in team fights, and all that little armor that they get is still enough to counter Blade of the Ruined King. But if they put in like Atma's Impaler again in the game and made it like the way it was in season 2, I don't think it would like break the game or anything. I think it would just make people bruisers a little bit more viable later on in the game. It would take a while for it to scale anyway, and at least you get the way to counter health stacking is through crit, right? And if you get that little bit of crit, it might help you kill that 6,000 HP Cho'Gath or something,
But even with Adams, I feel like it's too weak. Like it was even weak back then. I think it's going to be too weak in the current state. You need to have stronger items than that.
If you look at Titanic and compare it to Atmos, Titanic comes up ahead in almost every situation right now. Like I actually ran that comparison because people were like, what if they added back Atmos and Palers? I was like, well, hold on. You have Titanic Hydra, which is trying to be the same thing. But when you compare the two, doesn't the Titanic come out ahead in so many different situations right now?
Yeah. I think the main thing is just like tanks have cheap items, bruisers have very expensive items.
The most expensive items.
Not, okay, the most, whatever. But their items are not stronger. They're equally strong.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's for a 3-item combo. It's 1,800 more gold for the bruisers. But like, this is the question I was posed to people: would you rather have a 3-item bruiser on your team or a 3-item AD carry? Would you rather have that 3-item AD carry with the rapid fire cannon static shiv, you know, pinging people at 800 range for a good 1k nuke?
I'd almost take a 3-item support over bruiser. Support have really strong items right now. Actually, let's make it 4-item because their items are so cheap, right? I think that'd be a fair comparison.
You know,
Yeah, what's that item that like damages people and like makes this area of effect damage thing? Like that thing on Alistair, I'm just like, all right, fucks me over completely. I think I'm gonna look it up real quick. It's not Knight's Vow, it's that other thing.
my favorite is that Ardent Center scales up your shield, 4 times? You get ability power, so your shield is stronger. Cooldown reduction, so you can shield more. Shield power, so you can... Your shields are now more powerful, and also now your shields give attack speed and damage. And also you get movement speed and mana regen, and also it's 1 item. Yeah, it's hard to compete with that. It really is.
Yeah. I feel like it still just all comes down to like how much better and how much cheaper tank items are compared to like bruiser-ish items like Trinity Force and Titanic.
And this is
Sterex.
this is actually a suggestion I had. I said, why don't they just reduce the price of Sterex and Titanic by 200 each? Like, nobody wants Trinity to come down because Trinity is like a massive power spike item. But Titanic and Sterex Gauge, like, they increase your power and they're very slotted towards bruisers, but you don't really get the same... Like, it takes so long to build. Like, you don't get the same feeling out of them. Like, when I play an AD carry... You can go.
Let's be real. Even if they lower the gold by 200 gold, I don't think that it would be viable. Like, I don't think bruisers would be good. I still think that'd be really, really bad, regardless of that.
Well, I think... I mean, there are 2 issues that need to be addressed. One, they need to be better in the laning phase. Like, I've always said that if you're a split pusher, you need to win the laning phase. If you're coming from behind, it's impossible to split push. Like, I can't beat you 1v1, but let me touch your turret? Like, that doesn't work. And 2, after they launch out of the early game, bruisers need to have more impact throughout the game. Like, right now there's a point at around 4 or 5 items, I want to say. So once you're completing that Sterex Gauge and you're starting to move on to the next item, there comes that point where you really just start feeling like you get into a team fight and you can't do the damage to kill someone, and you're always being CC'd, and your Sterex isn't giving you enough survivability, and the AD carry is chain critting you for 700. There comes that point where you just feel like, boy, I would really rather be a tank right now. If I can't hurt people and I do very little CC, I would rather be a tank.
But also, if they want split pushing to be a viable strategy, they can make items specifically 1v1 situation, right? Basically, if you're 1v1, if there's nobody around him, then you do X amount of extra damage or whatever. You do X percentage damage, something like that, right? That'd be a good way to fix split pushing as well, because I think split pushing right now is impossible.
I think...
Especially...
I was just going to say, I mean, I think one thing that I've wanted for a while is for both the on-hit damage of Titanic and the active damage of Titanic to hit turrets.
That'd be neat. Like, oh, here's the item that I found. It's Zeke's Convergence. Like, it's only 2250 gold, right? But like, if you look at all the actives and passives that it has, it's like active. Okay, you can bind it to an ally, and then the passive is like casting your ultimate near your ally surrounds you with a frost storm and ignites your ally's basic attacks for 10 seconds. Enemies inside your frost storm are also slowed by 20%, and your ally's attacks burn their target for 50% more bonus magic damage over 2 seconds. And then you also have Frostfire Covenant. Your frost storm ignites when it burns, blah blah blah. Like, 2250 item with a passive like that. Like, it was a mouthful. Like, what am I even reading? Am I getting an item like that when I like what's the passive on Trinity? Oh, you get a Sheen proc. Okay, cool.
I mean, that's really... I mean, that goes into what I said about the Sterex Gauge and the Titanic right now. Once you boil them down into what their actual effect on the game is, you hit harder and you have more health.
Yeah, no,
that's it.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And you still suck at everything.
Right? I mean, that's why I say, look, if you make Titanic Hydra, if you make the on-hit and the active damage hit turrets, at the very least, it would be a concise item that would have a goal. you wave clear and you kill turrets quick.
But even then, you still think it would matter, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're against the tank, you're not going to be able to hit that turret unless you're really far ahead. He's just going to stand there and be like, "What's up, bro?"
That's why I said, what was that, Adam? When the keystone, the rune thingy that killed turrets. And remember that? What's that called?
Demolish.
Demo. I message a writer. I'm like, well, this is useless. He's like, what do you mean this is useless? I'm like, well, I'm standing next to a turret for 6 seconds and I get like 400 damage off it. He's like, yeah, it's really great. I'm like, it doesn't kill the turret, but it kills me to use it.
I think it's alright to have on tanks, right? But that's another thing. Like, Resolve is really broken as a 3-year wall.
I mean, the reason you go demolish is because you go unflinching or demolish. If you don't need unflinching, you get free demolish. And the fact that they're nerfing... Does anyone splash the precision tree as a secondary right now? Like, isn't everyone splashing sorcery for Scorch and Celerity or Resolve?
Yeah. Scorch and Celerity are just too good right now, I think. There's like no reason to go Domination second, or even if you consider Resolve second, it's like, yeah, I could get this situational tenacity and maybe second wind, or I could have this permanent movement speed buff and also have this on hit option where like it burns them for like 30 damage or something at level 1, which is insane because 30 damage at level 1 is a lot of damage.
Yeah,
and
that's...
I think Domination is actually pretty good if you already have a winning lane where you can get a lot of jungle vision, right? Like, for that reason, I think it's good with a zombie ward, but for any other reason, I would never use it.
It's something that really burns me too, is they just don't seem to get what's good. Like, I'm watching everyone splash sorcery second, and they're like, let's nerf the 2 splashable things from precision. Let's nerf Triumph. Let's nerf coup de grace. I'm like, but nobody's going that. Come on. That's what we're going is that's what I'm going as a bruiser. You're not nerfing people splashing it. You're nerfing me, the guy who actually, went down the precision line.
I think precision is fine. I don't think precision is overpowered at all in any way. I don't think any of the spells in precision is overpowered. I think the only thing that's overpowered is maybe some things in sorcery and most things in Resolve, like pretty much all of them. And
Resolve is
I
really
think that's
good.
basically it. Like, I don't think precision is overpowered. I think all of them are fine. I think bruisers maybe need a keystone because the lethal tempo thing is completely useless. And the other one is absolutely garbage as well. I don't know what the name is, but they like hit one. Maybe you can use it now, but apart from that, I don't think I've ever seen anyone use it.
I'd have considered. I mean, they were giving a. I get super fucking annoyed at this when they give a crit ratio to fleet footwork and then they tell me as a bruiser player, no, don't worry, it'll be good for you too. Well, if it's good for me, it'll be overpowered because it'll be even better on 80 carries.
But have you guys seen anyone use it?
No, not anyone.
Aside from maybe a Nah.
I saw Yasuo go fleet footwork one time.
I saw Tryndamere. That's about it, though. That's like the only champion I can think that it might be good on.
Yeah, so it's like basically a shit one. Like, they should just completely remake that one and make it into something for bruisers. Melee's only, I think.
I mean, because that's what I said in my video, is as the changes they're doing right now, fleet footwork might as well be grayed out if you're a melee champion. So why not have one keystone above the other? You choose one of the two, one for range, one for melee. With that, if you're going to balance fleet footwork so that you can only really use it as an AD carry, why not balance in other ones you can only really use it as a melee champion?
Yeah, and I feel like a part of the reason why they're nerfing press the attack is because a lot of AD carry champions are getting to abuse it, like Tristana and Vayne right now. Like, if you see how much damage Tristana does to you after she procs that thing, it's just insane. Like, she turns into an AP mage almost when she gets that press the attack. Like, she just fucking procs it, presses R, and like the bomb on top of you, you're just dead. Like, there's just so much damage out of her, right? And I feel like that's why they want to nerf it, but then they also indirectly nerf all the champions that are melee and use it.
And I
one thing they can do is just take the percentage damage and base it depending if you're melee or range, right?
Yeah.
6% for range and 12% for melee.
I don't understand it because for Jax, press the attack is great. It's pretty much just as good as Fervor, if not better. And because certain champions like Yasuo work less with press the attack than they do with Fervor, Jax's place, while being relatively the same, went up because most other champions that use Fervor went down, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's fine for him. Like, you look at his win rate right now, it's 50%. Like, it's 50% overpowered. I think Irelia is the highest bruiser, maybe, with 50% as well.
I don't know.
So, I mean, you can see their win rates are going down. As more and more people are being less creative, and more people are just going Graspy and dying, and more people are just playing Kennen and Teemo top. You can see the Bruisers are not getting any matchups at all that they can even feasibly win.
I'm using op.gg right now for Irelia on NA for all tiers because let's be real here, they balance the game. They should be balancing the game around every tier, and her win rate is 49%, and for Jax it's 51%, which makes sense because like low you're looking for.
Jax should be a high. Jax should always be a 51 to 52% win rate champion. Like I'll never make the argument that Jax is some super amazingly complicated champion. Like he's old, he's relatively straightforward. Everyone knows Jax. Everyone has played Jax. So this champion.
I disagree. I think Jax is actually pretty difficult to play for a lot of people. Like you have to remember that a lot of people weren't born with having a mouse in the hand and they came out of their mom. So then they use their mouse, like it like flies around the screen, they click all the time, misclick and so on. Like we kind of click on the right things we want to do, but if you misclicking all the time, you have no idea how to do a mechanical play. So Jax is not that easy. It only starts getting easy once you're like Platinum Plus maybe.
I mean, the thing I always say is Jax is one of the... I love fighting Jax. Jax is probably my favorite opponent to fight because everyone fucks up his Counter-Strike and then thinks, I'm Jax, I'm such a badass, I can out-all-in you anyway without my Counter-Strike. And you'll be playing Clyde or Irelia or something, you'll be like, no you can't. And you'll just kill him from full health. And you'll know in their mind they're going, wait, did I just get out-all-in'd as Jax? And you're like, yeah, because you need to use your Counter-Strike properly.
I think the biggest thing is bring back more skill to top lane, right? Because at the end of the day, if you play Teemo against Heimerdinger, it's not that skill based. You just fucking fire your rockets, you fire your things, and that's okay. Or if you play Heimerdinger against Irelia, it's not a skill based. She sits on her tower and cry, and I fire rockets at her all the time and hope I hit them.
And then I want to say something really quick. Something that really frustrated me, and I remember during season 4. Wickd was playing Shyvana, and he proclaimed Shyvana can beat Jax. And he was like, Wickd, you're full of shit. And I was like, well, yeah, she can. I mean, if you all play the Counter-Strike, and you play around the cooldowns, you can do it. And yeah, you're both trying to auto-attack each other, but to pretend you're both just right-clicking on each other and seeing who wins, that's not actually how it plays out. Like, for Riot, I often get the feeling, again, that's how they think it plays out. You just right-click each other and fuck it.
That's how it works out if you're two tanks, right? Basically, if you're two tanks, like then you had Moon and Shyvana, and they both just walk past the tower and farm creeps, behind the enemy turret, and then they gank mid both of them at the same time. That was a terrible meta. But then you have two Bruisers fighting each other. It's very, very skill dependent, and they both are really squishy. Can easily die. But right now the problem is the jungler comes from whoever gets the jungler first wins. But I think those are the matchups you want to have. You want to have them skill based, depending on the 1v1s.
Yeah, I feel like I get a rush when I play against a Jax or a Riven or like anything of that kind, like even a Jarvan or even a Renekton, like those.
Or like a Kled, right?
Yeah, I feel like it comes close. It feels good to like win it against them because it's all like really close and it's kind of it grinds my gears and it's like you get this adrenaline rush in a way. It feels good, but then when I'm against Thorin, it's like, can I cut right through him in this very instance, or is he just gonna kill me?
I mean, there's nothing better than when you're playing Kled and you're on the last auto attack to die and you remount and the music goes off and you get your lasso back and the opponent tries to run away and they realize they fucked up and you're like, nah, dude, I got my gap closer, I got my lasso, you're dead.
Yeah, that's why I don't understand why they want to push tanks so much because playing Bruises is a lot more fun in my opinion.
Well,
like sure, tanks get this huge team fight, viability where they can like press R as Malphite and like have this huge impact or whatever. But in the laning phase and maybe in the mid game almost, like it feels a lot more fun to play like I don't know Irelia compared to like playing Malphite.
I think the main difference is that the tank you have to be smart and make the smart plays, but Bruiser you have to be mechanically good. And I feel like it's much better, even at a pro level, to have the Bruisers be more viable because they're way more fun to watch, right? Imagine you're watching two Bruisers fighting it out. You have a Jackson Irelia, you have like Shyvana and Kled or whatever, it doesn't really matter, right? They're both down to 100 health and they're fighting it out and one flashes an ability and then kills the other person, right? That's very likely to happen in those kind of instances. And it used to happen a lot. But now it's just about, well, I'm Maokai, I sit in front of my creeps, you walk up to me, I order you, I kill you, and I walk back.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to the Jax versus Shyvana thing, I mean, in that matchup, I mean, let me throw an example out to you. You're Shyvana, right? So you walk up to Jax, you press your W early, to kind of like juke him out and be like, I'm about to W. So you walk towards him. He thinks you're about to W. You're Q. So he counter strikes. You walk back. He realizes he wasted his counter strike. You W forward. He has to leap strike away. People look at that trade and they say, well, what's the big deal? Nobody really hit each other. But then you realize Jax just blew his counter strike. He's out of the lane for 16 seconds. Shyvana now has pure control over everything. Just small jukes, small things you do are so impactful that in a tank matchup it doesn't happen. Like Ornn presses W and he's shielded and you're debuffed and you can't fight him, and even if you did fight him, he would shield it. And I guess you could walk behind him, but I mean, it very frequently comes out to, okay, so what does it matter? I guess I'll take the damage because there's no better situation for me right now.
Pretty much. Like, it's the same. Like, with most tanks, if you're against a bruiser, you just stand in front of the minions. Every time they walk up, you hit them and you walk back.
Yeah.
That's basically every single trade for every single one of them.
I mean, what are other things? Like if you're doing, I'm trying to think here, like, I don't know, Kled versus Irelia, right? The Irelia wants to save her Q for when Kled's dismounted. And as Kled, you're trying to get the most out of your mounted form. You're trying to maximize it. You're trying to save your W from when you're dismounted. You're trying to Q her at the same time she stuns you, so she has to walk forward during her stun so that you don't instantly die when you're dismounted. There's so many things going on that I think it's so, like, every decision matters, everything matters, every little bit. You're trying to inch out every tiny little advantage. Even small things like Irelia having to walk forward for a split second can be the difference. And then you get tank versus tank, and it's just, there's nothing.
I feel like the main thing is just that both sides can win in that matchup, but with both of them playing good,
Yeah.
With tanks, you can't win unless he messes up really hard. Like, that's mainly the thing, right? You depend on him to fuck up instead of both depending on who plays the best. But I think you should aim to have the matchups depending on who plays the best all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we're getting actually. Whoa, we're at an hour 2 minutes now. But so, okay, let me try to get into last points here real quick. Okay, so the last thing we were supposed to get to 40 minutes ago was basically, how does everybody feel about ranged champions top and especially Teemo?
I think ranged champions is balanced around tanks because tanks have too much regen, they're too tanky, and they buy tank items. So the problem is that ranged have to be overpowered now as well to match the tanks. And due to that, bruisers are just doomed. And you have two overpowered roles in comparison to like the bruisers that are just useless.
Yeah, and all the items that they create for surviving ranged champions end up being used better by tanks than bruisers themselves.
I mean,
I think,
But you can go.
sorry. But I just really want to bring this up. Like, I think Airy with Teemo, that keystone actually made him like probably one of the most broken top laners. Like, at least for a jungler to verse, because I can't stress enough like how I actually can't gank that champion on specific champions. I feel like the only champion out of my pool that I can gank it with is like Rek'Sai or maybe Vi. But like, say like Nidalee, like I cannot go top. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, even if I auto him with red, it's still like there's no real weakness to Teemo that I personally find like as a jungler, unless he's like ridiculously caught and low, but that's like rare. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that is something that, well, I don't even know where the way to put it. I mean, you look at champions like Cho'Gath healing with this passive on minion kills, Maokai healing with this passive every like 10 seconds or some crap. Who's the other one? Ornn shielding every W. It means that every ranged champion needs to be doing that much healing plus the amount of poke they want them to do. So they're doing effectively, they say, okay, they go to Teemo, they say, okay, how acceptable is it for Teemo to do this damage? Well, that damage is actually only doing, 50 damage per poke, because every time he does it, Ornn is going to shield it. But then you look at a Bruiser doesn't have that. So that's just doing the pure damage to the Bruiser. The Bruiser goes to last hit, Teemo auto attacks twice, presses Q, you're down to 30 your health bar, and you're like, do I have to go back to base?
Also, a big thing about them is Bruisers don't have any ranged attacks at all.
Yeah.
Where tanks all have ranged attacks, they can farm safer. Ranged people can obviously farm safer. But every time you're Bruiser and you want to go in, if the enemy jungler's there, you're dead. Every single time. And you're already losing the lane, so you don't have any vision.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that I'm using my E as Aurelia to fire more than anything else because it has like a longer range than my fucking auto.
That's how I use Jax's W right now. It's like I could just stay 50 spaces away. But I remember Olaf back in, was it season 3? People would say, why is Olaf so good top? I'm like, he's one of the few top laners who can farm with range while being able to ult in, you know, so you can be safe. Every champion can do that now, except for bruisers. Like, it's not special. It's not, like, for Olaf, it was one of his defining features, the ability to last hit with your axe from long range while being able to ult in. Everyone does that now. Everyone does that now.
Pretty much.
That's a good point, though. I do think they can increase the auto attack range of a lot of the melees right now, at least the bruiser ones. It just doesn't feel like it can farm.
One thing I never understood is like, why did the Rain we choose, like, for example, Tron, they're like, oh, he gets 50 more range. Aatrox, I think, as well. I'm like, why did you buff these two but not the other 5 champions or something like that, right? Like, why were those 2 champions chosen? It just seemed very inconsistent.
It's something that, I mean, when Jax got his 50 range on his W, a lot of people are like, it's a huge buff. I'm like, is it really, though? Because they gave Trundle 50 range. Trundle versus Jax was a fine, even lane. Yeah, I think Jax wins at late game, but at least in the laning phase, I think it'd go either way. And then they just gave Trundle 50 range on his Q. And it's like every trade now, he gets 225 range, I have 125. That's a pretty big difference, especially, you know, when you're talking about laning, you know, you don't want to be the one further ahead, because if you're the one farther ahead, then you're getting more minion aggro. And, I don't know, I mean, you look at some champions that just can't do anything about it.
Yeah,
I guess.
like when Wickd brought up Irelia versus Shen, that's like when this really comes into play. Like he'll just proc one of his abilities and he just chases you down with his auto attack range and hits you for like a quarter of your HP every auto attack. Like when you go near a minion, like he just taunts you and bam, that's it. You're out
He
of
doesn't
lane.
even need to taunt, you just stand there, you know?
He
Yeah,
just press Q and keep it. I mean, it stays up for what, 6 seconds? Like he can just sit there and just be like, touch a minion. I dare you, dude.
No, but mostly you just put the dagger behind. The second Irelia passes the dagger, you just Q and auto her. If she tries to run, you just taunt.
That's something that frustrates me though about champions like Shen and Ornn is they've got counterplay, but even if you use it properly, they're just so blatantly overstat that you lose anyway. You know, it would be fun if you dodge Shen's sword. You know, if I used Leap Strike and got out of the way of his sword, that he was really punished for it and would get demolished in a trade. But right now, it's like, oh, I guess I lose 2% health damage on each auto. You know, so
Or if
okay.
you flash his taunt or something, right? That should be great. This is huge outplay. But never mind, you're fucked regardless.
Yeah, presses W.
but also like he got an escape. He's stronger 1v1. He got an escape. He's a tank. He's tankier. Like so, he's basically better 1v1. He can escape ganks. He's better at setting up for ganks. He's got more map pressure. He can gank better. Like
There's some, yeah. I mean, I think people truly don't believe how absurdly one-sided the balance is right now. Like people see me complaining and they go, "Ah, bruisers are fine." It's like I don't think you realize just how far out of the meta they are right now. Like, again, at Worlds, they tried Jax one time. The opposing team picked Kennen, and that was it for Worlds. People were like, never mind. Fuck it.
yeah. But again, like that's mainly just the problem that also a lot of people that are low elo players right now, right? They have absolutely they don't have no idea how to play the game, so they just walk around randomly, and that's why these champions have different win ratios.
Yeah. Well,
Yep.
I'm gonna try to end it there because we're at 1 hour 8 minutes now, which is probably not gonna get upvoted on Reddit, but I'm hoping.
Well, my thing with my tier list got upvoted, right? My tier list that was like 1.40 minutes, I think.
I actually used your tier list several times.
Do you like it?
The only thing I couldn't figure out was why was Urgot in tier 2?
I don't think he's that good.
Yeah,
No, there's tier 1 and tier 2. You put him up in tier 2 with like Jax and Irelia.
I haven't seen Urgot since the new patch. I'll be honest. I think I saw him like once and he got smashed.
Yeah, that weirded me out. That was the one thing I looked at. I'm like, what? Is there something I'm not getting?
You think he's worse than Irelia?
Yes.
I have never seen him since. I
don't see him at all, and when I did see him, I just kind of trolled him.
I see him from time to time. I don't think he's that bad, honestly.
I think he's better than Irelia personally. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
because like
Alright.
you can actually get out of a gank as Urgot with that like fling thing. But Irelia, if you just gank Irelia, it's like
I love his
unless
fling
it's
thing.
ICU. Like I don't know.
How do I
I
run
know.
quicker? I don't know. Just throw my fat body in that direction.
Just fucking fling. It's like a slingshot where you just go back and forth. So stupid.
Like we put her really in the worst tier because she's just absolutely garbage for any high elo player, you know? Like this is made for a higher elo, you know?
I
Earth can actually
love playing
lane, so-
Irelia when I can get a matchup. When I'm playing, I mean, I played Irelia versus Shen. I lost half my health at level 2. Taunt into. I was just
Tell me one matchup that's good for Irelia.
Gangplank.
It's not
Jarvan.
even that good. Gangplank's not even that good.
Okay,
Jarvan is
but
fine,
it's better than the other ones.
No, tell me one good one. Like I saw in LCS, right? These fucking animals. I told them don't pick Irelia into Gnar. They kept doing it and they lost every time. And they were like, "Yeah, you should probably not do this because you don't win the lane and you don't win after like half an hour."
Dude, that's why I wanted to butcher Nar so badly. It is so difficult to shut him down in the laning phase, and once he gets one item, he'll just stand in your face and auto you down as Irelia.
I think the problem is Frozen Matter works on ranged. Why the fuck does that item work on ranged champions?
I mean, they could just remove it from range entirely and undo a lot of the Gnar nerfs, and that would probably
You could
fix
even
it.
remove it from melee. Like who the fuck buys it a melee? It's like only a ranged item right
That's
now.
actually an argument I made a couple months back, is that the only people who buy Frozen Mallet right now are people that are broken with Frozen Mallet. It's if you're broken, you buy it. If nobody builds Frozen Mallet, like I'm not playing Jax against a Varus, and I think if I get Frozen Mallet, I can stay on him. I build an Omen then, you know?
Yeah,
Frozen
a lot
Matter
of
is a dumb
those-
item.
it is. And a lot of the ranged champions that build it already have like slows to begin with. So it's like when you get it on
Stun.
when you get it on Gnar, like he already has a super short cooldown Q that slows people. And then he gets like Mallet on top of that. Like you're not gonna run away from him. Like if you're starting to beat him, he can run away from you easily. But if he starts beating you, then you're not getting away from that. You're dying.
But again, that's the problem with people without arms, right? Like the people who don't have arms, they click one time, they don't move the hand anymore, right? So when you actually jump on a Gnar in lower elo, he's not going to be kiting you with Frozen Mallet because the guy doesn't have arms, so he's just going to stand still. Like that's what it's balanced around, you know?
Yeah, it shouldn't be balanced around low elo. Like I really do feel like it's completely balanced around low elo. Like it's to the point where like I'm playing Nidalee jungle and I'm building spell thieves like first back because it gives me more gold. It's like a call for Nidalee. It's just retarded. But
I
because
think
support's
supports-
been playing, yeah.
I think support should have no items.
Yeah, like it's fucking retarded. And then like ADCs were complaining for so long, but like their role wasn't even that bad. Like at the peak of like when the ADC in 2K16 or whatever that meme was, right? Like it's like it wasn't even that bad. Like just it was actually just
I
low
don't think
elos.
ADCs have ever been weak.
Yeah, but
Never,
like
never.
yeah,
Even
Like-
when the popular ones were like Ashe and Varus, and people were like AD carries are just utility now. I'm like, yeah, you're utility with great damage. How many other classes are like that? Like, why is it so special that when AD carries are like that, they complain that they're useless, even though they're still being picked, even though they're still being played, even though they're still doing great, just because you're not the premier #1 special star child, you know, you complain that you're weak.
Yeah.
And plus, an AD carry is always necessary to the game.
Yep.
Always.
Like
Yeah.
I think it's a problem the second you start picking APs or tanks bot lane, but like as long as you don't do that, then they're probably not underpowered.
Yep.
I
I remember it happened for like a month in season 4 when they put in Targons and you'd go like double Bruiser bot for like a little bit, but obviously there was an outrage and it got quelled pretty fast.
very quickly. I mean, the last point I'll make here, real quick, the last thing that's really frustrated me is back when Morello was on the balance team, and you could go to the discussion, the forums,
Sure.
and you could literally just post up a bitch post like Teemo's fucking AIDS, kill him. Like Morello would come and respond to you and be like, I hear you. Nowadays, I feel like there's just nobody. Like I legitimately feel like there's just nobody who cares anymore. You know, Pantheon's been broken for 2 years. Jace has been broken for 2 years. It's like, you can complain all you want. Nobody's listening is how I feel.
I just feel like every single champion that's broken is so easy to fix. Like it's so freaking easy.
Exactly.
Like I don't see how it's hard. Wait, let me find your list. So Kelly, I think her only problem is Shroud is too long. I don't mind if you
Exactly.
can jump a little longer with it or whatever. I don't like make it bigger if you want. I don't give a fuck, but make it last less time because it's like fucking forever, you know. Teemo,
Yeah.
remove the blind. There's no counterplay. Remove it or change it into a percentage damage, whatever. Exhaust, nerf that shit. It doesn't make any sense to be in the game. I don't think exhaust should even exist, to be honest. Maokai, make him heal less. Bam, fixed. Cho'Gath, make him heal less. Bam, fixed. Ornn, remove the shield. Bam, fixed. Riven, remove the shield. Maybe change it into armor, max, whatever. Pantheon, change his passive. He shouldn't be able to have it twice. Like the second you use it one time, make it like 10-second debuff. You can't have it again. Jace, make him not one-shot people. Like everything is so easy to fix, you know, and then balance it afterwards. You just have to change one little key element.
It's kind of hard also because they made cooldown reduction so accessible. Like, okay, Akali's Shroud has a decently long cooldown, but the thing is, she'll get like a Zanya's, and that's like another 10% CDR. Maybe Runes will give her a bunch of CDR too, and then bam, it has like a 74%.
I actually want to say that's something that's really frustrating from a bruiser perspective. With CDR being such a cheap, easy stat, there are champions who never really wanted cooldown reduction. When Frozen Heart was really, really top tier, on a Jax, I was like, I don't really care about cooldown reduction. But now it's kind of force-fed you on every item, and champions that don't deliberately scale amazingly with it aren't doing that great, really.
But even then, I don't even think that's the problem, right? Like, look at Akali, for example. If you say that the cooldown is long, it doesn't even matter because she might lose. Let's say she fucks up and uses it. She might lose like 4 or 5 creeps because it's like 24 seconds, right? But she will never lose more than one wave. So it's not a big deal. Like, if there's no counterplay as long as that ability is up, then the cooldown doesn't really matter as long as it's not more than 40 seconds.
I mean, that's the point I keep trying to make to people. A, everybody thinks Akali is some niche, like, cheese snowball champion. I'm like, no, she's actually legitimately good. And B, it's like with the Shroud being the duration it is right now, it means you're not really using it to dodge. Like, if you used it to dodge Counter-Strike, fine. You use it to dodge Counter-Strike, you know? That's great. You know, you dodge my Counter-Strike. If you use it, you know, to dodge any ability, I'm totally okay with that. But when you can go into Shroud and completely negate Aatrox's passive, for example, like you can Shroud and my passive falls off because it's just that long, I start to feel a little bit frustrated, I guess.
Like just imagine if it was much bigger, but it was only like 3 seconds or 2 seconds.
Another problem, I think, is because you can't really reveal her with like control wards or anything anymore. So yeah, I mean that kind of removes the little bit of counterplay that you had back when they were in the game. I know that people were complaining about it being a useless ability because of that, but still, now you just have to like wait out the entire duration.
Yeah, I mean that's why I suggested reduce it to 2 seconds, because I feel like back before Shroud was permanent invisibility, she would proc it, you'd pink ward it, so she could use it to maybe dodge something, but then you immediately revealed it. So, you know, it was kind of like a little, you know, like, I gotcha for a second, but then you reveal it and you kill her. Right now, she goes into it and you're like, I guess I'll walk away or something, you know?
Yeah, it's really fucked up, I think. I think it's so easy to fix. That's why I'm a bit upset about it. Like, I don't actually think it's difficult at all.
That's been my point. It's so much neglect has gone in purely because they believe tanks are really. It's like, okay, why don't they fix Kennen? Oh, because you can play Ornn and you can shield every time Kennen throws his shit at you. Why don't they fix Jace? Oh, because if you play a tank, you've got a better team fight and you can survive him. Why don't they fix Pantheon? Oh, because you can out heal him. It's like, but what if I'm not a tank? You know, what if? And it really feels like, and this comes from Reddit, this comes from Twitch chat, this comes from the developers themselves sometimes. They don't get the aspect that, first off, I'm not always the one counter-picking. You know, there's a big deal right there. But second off, and I guess more importantly, is should I be forced to play Ornn first pick into every situation just because Pantheon exists?
Yeah, honestly, I think you could fix... Like, the problem right now is you can only pick 2 or 3 champions, but I think you could easily pick 10 champions just by changing a tiny detail on every single champion.
I mean, yeah.
You don't need to change much. Like, imagine if you did to the Heimerdinger rocket doesn't stun. Bam. Now you're not going to go one shot.
I mean, that's why my suggestion for Shen is basically reduce the base damage on his Q by 10, level 1 to 6. You know, give you more breathing room before he starts, you know, being able to really bring his damage in. Sure, keep his mid to late game fine, but at least for those early levels, you know, take some of that damage away, let people get some more breathing room. You will outscale him, that's fine. You know, just don't let him half health you at level 1.
I actually think they could just make his Q AoE damage and then not make it more. That way you can hit creeps as well. You can do much more cool stuff, right? And you can actually fight 1v2 and better in team fights, but you're not going to be oppressive in 1v1s. And then remove like the shield from the Q. Or change the W, so it only helps allies.
Yeah, they should make Titanic Hydra just as skill intensive as tanks and just make it AoE in every direction around you.
Add in like a 100-word passive, and we'll be good.
Yeah, that's actually a good suggestion. There should really be a bruiser item that gives you a ward at this point. Like, maybe just toss that on Sterig's Gauge, you know?
Honestly, I don't think we need more wards in the game. I think we need less wards.
Yeah, that too.
500 wards, and then you have zombie wards everywhere. It's like, well, we have a ward in every single bush now, so we never face check again. No more double lifts.
Yeah, I feel like that kind of ruins a lot of potential to like sneak up on AD carries. Like I could do that no problem in like season 4, season 5, because there's not that many wards, right? But now like all of them have ways of checking all the bushes everywhere, and they can safely farm all the time now.
I don't like a single one of the extra wards you have. Especially not the fucking blue one.
I do agree on the blue one. It's really frustrating when you're waiting in a brush bot lane. Like, you're waiting in a pushed up brush, and you see the AD carry, he's creeping up closer and closer, and you're like, I'm gonna get... And then he blue wards the brush, and you're like, yeah, alright. You just walk away at that point.
I think it'd be much better if you had like... Imagine both teams had like one orb or something, and then you could take it, and you can use it like once, you know, and then goes back to base like every whatever. Every 2 minutes or something, and then you have to pick it up again instead of having these fucking wards everywhere, sweepers everywhere, and so on.
See, I preferred it when you had to pay 250 gold to get your trinket upgraded, because I think that meant that people who were split pushing or doing something that they wanted their wards upgraded, they wanted the lower cooldown, higher duration. If I got that on Jax, that was great, you know, that allows me to ward hop away. But when they gave it to everybody, it kind of means everyone can do that, even if you're not interested in it. Even if you're a mid laner who just didn't upgrade and you're in the mid game and you happen to look and you're like, oh shit, I got 2 wards here and they last forever. Good. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think the boot upgrades were good. Now you get home guard now.
What was better?
Wasn't it even better before you could get trinkets?
I mean, I would say the biggest issue I think trinkets tried to fix overall was top laners who couldn't ward their river brush.
But that's because junglers became OP. Before junglers were really weak, so that wasn't an issue. I think the problem was only made junglers OP, supports OP, so you needed wards to survive all the time. And because of that, now you can't really 1v1 that much in any lanes because junglers are everywhere.
Yeah, I get told all the time now, like, you used to ward the river brush and that was your go-to ward, you know? And then it seems not that you can explosive plant over it, you can wall hop over it. Now people, they say, oh, we need a deep ward into their blue. It's like, god damn. How outrageous do you have to be just to try to take a good trade in lane, to go for a kill? Now I need to be concerned with their jungle where they're... You know, it's like, there's so much effort to go into it, why not just play a tank and take it easy and farm? Because
That's what I do. I play tanks and Heimerdinger.
No.
Hey, I average like 140 CS per game as Irelia, so I'm getting a lot of farm.
Yeah. I don't know. I just play tanks, dude. Or Heimerdinger. Every time somebody picks a bruiser into me, I pick Heimerdinger and just one-shot them.
I can't believe that Heimerdinger has been one-shotting... It's been, what, a year and a half now? A year and a half of him one-shotting bruisers, and there just hasn't been a single change to it. I mean, it's why I say it's super frustrating, because I don't feel like there's anyone left at Riot who legitimately, I feel, like, cares about that shit, you know? When I say, hey, I'm getting one-shot by Heimerdinger, and instead of, oh, that's a problem, let's deal with that, I'm told, well, did you try picking Ornn?
Why not just get Trinity and then just one-shot the AD carry? I mean, that's what I get told.
Back Back in the days, there's so many more viable champions.
Yeah, that's what I mean, I always think back. My golden age is always like late season 2, like pre Jace, right? Where you had stuff like Irelia, Jax, Zhao, Mundo, Renekton,
Darius.
Darius, and you had so many options, and so many people preferred this is the bruiser I like to play, you know. And then you compare that to now. You don't play a champion because you prefer them. You play Ornn because he's better. Period. He's better, so you play Ornn.
Pretty much.
Yep.
Like if you look at the Kesper Club or Cup thing, there's only tanks being played. And Kennen.
It's so fucked up, and it just frustrates me that there's just nothing. There's nothing being done at all, like at all.
Actually, wait, Jax was played once, but he lost, of course.
Yeah, you see, the Long Zhao team played Jax. Was it 3 times? And ever since then, it's like, hey guys, 4 months ago he was played 3 times, so he's totally viable. It's like, yeah, but what about recently? Well, the meta has changed. It's like, well, yeah, so he's not viable. Yeah, but he was played 4 months ago. Okay.
This is also kind of making me realize that although we do think that balance is easy, it kind of isn't. Like, look at us. We're going at this for like 2 hours almost, right? And
I do.
we could keep on going and going and going, right? And even if we do all these changes, I'm sure more issues would pop up. So I mean,
But-
like you can't like fully blame them for not getting it completely right.
I wouldn't
Well,
blame them.
I think you can because at the end of the day, I think they make a lot of champions because they're like, oh, we need these cool things in the game, right? And because of that, they need so many unique and cool things that actually ends up breaking the game because they can just remove a lot of the things, right? Like as I said, with all the champions there, you can change it out to be way less oppressive. It's super easy. Every single one of them is super easy to change.
I agree with Wicked purely because they haven't even tried. They haven't tried to do anything with Jace. Like, you can say it's difficult, but I can say something's difficult, never try it, and say, well, it's too difficult to try. That doesn't really...
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Like for example, they're reworking Irelia because she's too weak right now. But like, what's wrong with her kid? Like they always said there's something wrong with her kid, but I'm like, what's actually wrong with her kid? Like,
Yeah,
why
they
is she such an oppressive champion?
They complain about her sustain and all that, but then they'll add in stuff like Maokai where, oh, he has to skillfully use his auto attack to heal. Wow.
I just mean like I think Irelia is one of the most fun kids in the game, right? As an example, where Maokai, I think Maokai is more fun than On, but like On is the most boring kid ever because you press W and you can't do anything. You just move forward. You literally just move forward.
I think that's another thing. People say, well, bruisers are fine because people are playing them. People aren't playing them because they're good. People are playing them because the other options aren't fun. It's not fun to play. The only tank tank I like to play is right now Ornn, and that's really just kind of.
You're disgusting.
Well, he's so broken. I mean, what's unfun about QW? And then you hit them with their ammo, you chunk off half their health, and they're just like, well, I hit your shield off, so go me.
I have legit not played a single Ornn game. I refuse to play him.
Oh, if you play him, I mean, it's fun in what's even the right way to put it, like a season 2 Shen way of fun, where you're just so broken, you kind of just feel like a badass, you know? You're just running up and beating the shit out of people, and they can't stop you.
It's fun like going to the school grounds for like the 8th graders, you know, and just start beating them up and smashing the kids in an MMA style fight instead of going to that real fucking fight, you know? I don't know. Not for me, bro.
Alright, so at just over an under 30 now, or an hour 30 now. Anyone have any last points then?
Wait, didn't you remove the last 20 minutes, no? I thought we stopped 20 minutes ago.
No.
Oh, really? We're still
Yeah.
recording?
Well, I never said I ended. You guys kept talking, so I just kept recording.
But you said we're ending now. And
Well, I said we're ending now, and then you guys kept... Do you want me to end it now?
I thought you ended at
I feel
108.
like there was still useful.
I think you should just cut it at 108. There's no use for the last 22 minutes.
I think you could add it for comedy value. I mean,
I think you
It's
could
completely
add
up to you.
What I think you should do is remove the last 20 minutes and then only add the ending, you know, for the comedy.
But
Maybe figure out you're still
I would have to
fucking
learn
recording.
editing.
no, just put the whole thing, man. Just put the whole thing.
I don't actually
Unedited.
I don't
But
actually
all
know
of it.
editing.
Oh,
Like,
dude.
I'm super lazy. You guys don't realize. I literally just open OBS. I click start recording. I take that video. I put that on YouTube. That's the extent of my editing capabilities. It puts a file in my videos folder, and I just put that on YouTube.
Dude, it's fine. Include the whole thing. I think
That's
it will
fine.
be great. Yeah.
That's actually pretty true. I'm not gonna lie.
Why? I mean, I said let's start ending. Does anyone have some final points? That doesn't mean we're ending, though.
Okay, I think a full recap would just be I think tank items are too good and support items are too good, and bruisers don't really get anything like that, and they just get outclassed by tank items. And plus, a lot of the ranged champions top lane are broken because, well, they're balanced around the tank items.
Okay, so ranged champions and tanks have had a war where they keep power creeping against each other. Bruisers have been left out. Bruiser items are also bad. Tanks are way too easy to play and way too effective. And ranged champions probably need to have their players kicked in the dick.
I think a pretty big thing to recap as well is that Riot balances too much from like the lower elo community, and they should be focusing more on the higher elo community. Like I think that's
Yes.
really big.
I think they need to do a job at all. Like I really truly believe they just haven't done anything. Like season 6, 7, and now into 8, it feels like the same shit every day. Every day I log in, I go to ranked, I start streaming, and I say, okay, please, nobody pick Jace or Pantheon. I can't do anything to stop you, but just please don't do it to me, man.
I actually have one question. Do you really think if they balance the game around high elo player that would completely break lower elo player? Like, I'm okay with nerfing champs like Master Yi because you fucking A-click and you're like, no, and they all die, you know? That's fine. Nerf that shit. It's cool. But all the other champs, if you balance around top tier play, right, would it actually screw the lower tier play?
Yeah, actually, I want to show something real quick. Because people don't believe me. If I go to champion.gg and I sort by rank, right? And I look at win rate, you want to know who the highest win rate champion is right now? Can anyone guess?
Pantheon or Tima.
Malzahar as well,
No.
I guess.
York.
I was gonna say York, fuck.
It's York, then Malzahar, then Tarek, then Sion, then Shyvana,
Wait,
then
in champion.gg?
Yes.
In Plat Plus or?
No, just in bronze.
Oh.
So, I guess my point is that, like, they're totally okay with some shit being broken. Like, they're not... Yeah, okay, so they're nerfing York, Malzahar, and Shyvana. They're not nerfing Misfortune. They're not nerfing Teemo. They're not nerfing Rammus or Heimer or Tarek. Like, there are so many champions that are broken at low elo, balanced or high elo, who Riot just kind of whistles and says, well, we'll just let them be broken at bronze. And to be honest, I'm kind of okay with that, because learning to beat those champions should be a part of going up the ranks, you know? When you figure out, oh, maybe I shouldn't stand in Tarek's stun, maybe I should learn to play around his ultimate, that should be how you go from bronze to silver, you know? Like, I feel like beating champions that are broken at low elo is just part of the process. And they're always going to be champions that are broken, so it's not like you can just solve the issue forever.
Yeah, I remember when I started playing the game, I thought when I started playing Irelia, sorry, I thought Jax was the most broken piece of shit ever. Like, he'd just press E and just whack my face off the fucking laning phase. But I learned what his E does. I learned how it works. I learned that I can just kite it or probably stun him when he uses it and then go back on him and probably one-shot him. And I was like, wow, this is pretty easy actually. And then I obviously started climbing up. And I even found Darius broken, like, when I first started playing against him. Like, oh, he gets 5 stacks, he ults me, and I die. But then I learned that, well, he can do a lot of stuff before he gets those stacks. And, you know, I just learned the game while playing that one champion, and eventually beat all those champions that I found really scary in the beginning, when I was, like, silver or gold.
I think Darius, at least in last season, this season he blows, but last season, I think Darius was always... I liked playing him, and I also hated playing against him. I never felt like super annoyed fighting Darius, but it always just felt like he's kind of a nerve-wracking champion, you know? Because often with him, it comes down to whether or not who are you going to get the kill. He's going to get those 5 bleeds, he's going to ult you and murder your fucking face off, or you're going to kill him. And you got to kind of outplay every single bleed, every auto attack, every Q. You have to fight for every bit of damage, and if you fuck up, he just gets those 5 bleeds and kills you, and it's fun, but...
I think Darius is like the prime example of a really nicely made champion, because he's very, very good early and then he falls off. And if he gets that early game and he gets those good plays, and then it's great. So I think he's actually a great champion, even if I hate playing him. Just like Fiora. I think Fiora is a good, very well made champion that I absolutely fucking despise playing against, but I still think she's well made. Because you can outplay her, and there's a lot of skill involved.
Yeah, that too. I agree.
But I think we should wrap it up soon.
Yeah. So that's basically it. I'm just gonna stop recording right now then, and